difficulty of losing your job, looking for a job, and just all of the struggles associated with being unemployed. These are particularly difficult times. You hear about so many different companies, and it's not just smaller or medium-sized businesses. Some of the biggest corporations, especially in tech, but really all industries, retail, are laying off large numbers of people, and this has been going on for some time. If you're in the market for a new job, even if you're employed and looking, you know that it's not a normal market at all. And of course, the economy, with all of the stresses of inflation, it's certainly not a normal or promising economy right now, at least in the United States. So there is absolutely a lot of gaslighting going on right now. I mean, it's an election year, need I say more? They're trying to paint things as much more optimistic than they are, much more positive than they are. The middle class, lower class, so-called lower class, are certainly feeling it. Even the upper class is feeling it. And yeah, so it just adds insult to injury to be gaslit, by the current administration. And there have been several, jobs reports where, months later, weeks later, they say, oh, we over-reported the number. And of course, by then, everyone's, forgotten or isn't paying attention to the retraction. So, yeah, the gaslighting is very real. Looking for a job is just not a pleasant experience, and it really is. It's a full-time job in and of itself. But, you have to remember, even if the prospects don't seem great, it only takes one yes, just one yes. So it's difficult to persevere, but yeah, just keep that in mind. You might be seeing fewer opportunities than you did on your last job search, but it just takes that one yes. I myself am still waiting for that one yes, like so many of you watching. So I was first laid off in January of last year from a job that I really enjoyed. Just really liked the people. I loved the role. And being laid off, it definitely took me by surprise. I was part of a wave of layoffs, so it always feels personal. Maybe it didn't feel quite as personal because I was laid off with many others, and there have since at this company been several other waves of layoffs that have affected people. But yeah, I certainly took it personal, and you start to wonder why me and why not someone else, and it definitely plays with your head, and that way you could speculate forever about that. But yeah, I was let go with many other very talented, hardworking people that I'm sure were just as devastated. And it definitely made me think about the fact that, these companies tell you that you are part of a family, which is a total scam, and that's definitely something, if you believe that, I'm sorry, but you're being a sucker. It's not a family. If it is a family, then it's a very dysfunctional one, because you can be just banished from the tribe without any notice for no good reason at any time. And it really makes you wonder, why do employees still feel so obligated to give a 2-week notice whenever they find a new opportunity. It's almost unheard of during layoffs for the employer to give you 2 weeks notice to find a new job or to make arrangements or do whatever you need to do. It just doesn't work both ways. So I think we really need to reconsider, giving a 2-week notice. If you have an employer that you really love and you have a great relationship, I mean, by all means, go ahead and do it. But in most cases, if it's a better opportunity, you're denying yourself probably an increase in salary by delaying your start at your new job by 2 weeks. So, it's very much a one-sided thing, and I think that it's kind of an antiquated concept, really. So anyway, after my first layoff, well, first of all, I did receive a small severance, but a severance nonetheless, which many people do not get, so that bought me some time. But it did take a few months to find a new job, and that was difficult. I actually exhausted my unemployment benefits, but I found a new position right as they expired. So that was really lucky timing, even though the new position that I found, it was contract, so I didn't have benefits, and it was significantly less, but it was still a job, and it allowed me to, pay the bills, just barely, but at least I was able to pay the bills. And that turned into one of the most bizarre working experiences of my life. I was hired alongside this other guy, and we quickly realized that something was very wrong. It took weeks just to get a company email address and to get set up on some of the very basic platforms, so definitely some red flags, but then we realized that there was nothing for us to do, at least no meaningful work to be done, so someone was clearly very hasty in hiring us. I mean, like I said, it at least helped to pay the bills for a while, but after a few months of us actually asking for work to do, we were both laid off, actually the week before Christmas, and that was once again quite devastating. And like I said, my unemployment benefits were exhausted, so I was in a very dire situation. I took on a customer service role, which was an absolute nightmare. They had no idea what they were doing, and I was put in the very uncomfortable position of only being able to provide the worst customer service because the systems just were hardly even usable. It was just such a mess. The training, the management, it was just unbelievable. So I could have stayed there. I mean, it was making even, significantly less than I was making at the job that I just got laid off from. I definitely wasn't able to pay all my bills or make all ends meet. And so I left that job out of frustration, and I've been doing DoorDash, which is really meant to be more of a side hustle. But I've been doing that making that work as like a full-time gig, and that's still not paying all the bills. So it's extremely frustrating, but it does, I'm making a little bit more doing that. And the job search has just it's been brutal. I have had interviews. I've had, for some jobs, like a series of 4 interviews, and then I don't get the position. So it's, you get your hopes up, and it's really exhausting. It's super time consuming. So, I'm working essentially full time, and then my second full time job, um, is a non-paid job, and that's looking for my next, you know, position that's in line with my career, and one that hopefully in which I can sustain myself. So yeah, it's been brutal. It's been brutal, and I know that that's the experience of so many others out there. If you go onto LinkedIn or just read articles about, the other people's job searches, you know that it's, like I said at the beginning, it's not normal by any stretch of the imagination. And on one hand, it's a little bit comforting to know that it's not just you, but it's also, you can despair because so many other people are in the same boat, and it's like, when is this going to turn around? When is this going to turn around? So, at least I am getting some bites, but, nothing yet. I do work in a relatively competitive field, but this is ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. So I'm looking, I would prefer to find remote work, but I'm totally open to going into the office or finding a hybrid, situation. And just, being unemployed is, aside from being financially a huge strain and a huge source of anxiety and desperation, um, psychologically it definitely takes its toll. You feel ashamed, and it definitely is a blow to your ego and to your self-esteem. And it's a very real fear that, eventually if this goes on that much longer, you could lose everything, and you start to reconsider your previous, choices in terms of your education and your career and everything. And it's, yeah, psychologically, it's really difficult, and it's so hard to stay optimistic but not get your hopes too high, and to deal with, the rejection and just all of the hard work that you put into rewriting your resume to cater it to particular positions, and writing cover letters, and just the application process itself, and putting yourself out there, reaching out to recruiters. It's physically and emotionally draining. And then, just the job search itself is full of some very specific difficulties. If you're looking at remote work, one of the things that blows my mind is that even for 100% remote jobs, employers will put in job ads if your salary will still be dependent on where you live. And it's like, why? It's the same position, it's remote. Just because my address is in one state or one geographic area, you're going to pay me less or more. That's really, that's absurd. And that just doesn't seem right. And of course, salaries are much lower, even as expenses for everything are going up. Salaries are very clearly not what they used to be a year or two ago. And then, you apply to a lot of positions that, you get super excited about, and then the recruiter says, out of the blue, I'm sorry, that position has been canceled. That happens a lot. That happens to a lot of people. I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, it happens, and that's super frustrating. And then a lot of recruiters or hiring managers will just ghost you. That's totally a thing that has become all too common. It's just rude. It's almost, I would say, sociopathic, psychopathic. I don't understand. You know, you might have had even an interview that you felt went well, or maybe even a couple of interviews, and then they're just gone. It's crazy. And then you have insanely specific job ads where they just want you to have like an insanely specific experience. Like, let's say that you're looking for a writing, like a marketing writing position. They want you to have experience marketing for like clowns for children's parties. And it's like, you know, if you're a good recruiter, like you can find someone that's capable of learning new new subject matter or a new industry if they have the basic skills and education, and if you can intuitively gauge if the person's intelligent. But they just want like turnkey employees, and it's like, good luck with that. um, so yeah, it's super frustrating. And whenever you don't get a position, sometimes you'll ask for feedback because you want to improve your interview skills or your resume or whatever it might be, and you never get feedback. I think that these potential employers are just scared to give feedback for whatever reason. Maybe they're afraid to be sued for discrimination or whatever, but that's super frustrating. I mean, you've given them a lot of your time. Just a couple sentences in an email could be super helpful. And at the end of the day, you just really have to treat it like a full-time job, but you also have to take care of yourself because it is draining and it's frustrating and it can really eat away at you. So you have to take breaks. Take a couple of days off from your job search. You have to, and you have to take care of yourself. Do whatever it takes. I like to do yoga. Um, you know, you might like to do, to exercise or just have a good laugh. But taking a break, I think, is super essential. Those of you who have been through, a frustrating job search, I'd like to know in the comments, what have you done to take care of yourself? If you are going through the job search right now, know that you're not alone, and it does only take one yes, and I hope that if you are looking, this is your week. It can't go on forever. So